Okay, so let's dive into a story that is, and I'm not kidding, stranger than fiction. We're going to look at a real scientific paper that found something so bizarre, it feels like it was ripped straight out of a Hollywood movie script. Right, you know this story. A small, unassuming town that's secretly being tormented by some kind of mysterious, terrifying parallel dimension. A place where the walls between our world and another one are, well, they're getting pretty thin. I mean, that show totally captured our imaginations, right? This whole idea of strange signals, weird intrusions from another world, and that creepy feeling that something is lurking just under the surface of what we think is normal. Well, this is where it gets interesting. This explainer is all about a real-life scientific paper that found something just as strange. Not in some fictional upside down, but right here on our Earth, hidden in plain sight in data that millions of people had just completely overlooked. So this whole thing kicks off back in the early 1990s. You've got this group of scientists who basically became detectives, but they weren't dusting for fingerprints at a crime scene, they were hunting for clues in the vibrations of our own planet. And get this, they sifted through 4 years of global seismic data. That's over 1 million individual reports. But here's the kicker. They weren't looking for earthquakes. They were looking for the exact opposite. They were hunting for the signals that they couldn't explain. They decided to focus on what the field calls unassociated reports. Now, you can think of these as like glitches in the matrix. They're seismic readings that just don't match the signature of a normal earthquake. They couldn't be traced back to a single origin point. These were the real weird ones. And this right here perfectly illustrates the heart of the mystery. See, a normal earthquake, it radiates energy out from one spot, the epicenter. Kind of like dropping a pebble in a pond, right? The ripples go out in circles. But these signals, they were totally different. They looked like they were being generated along a perfectly straight line, almost as if something was literally piercing its way through the planet. So, they found 2 of these bizarre line source events back in 1993. And just look at this map. This shows the first one. It charted a course straight from Antarctica, right through the Earth's mantle, and popped out south of India. Just let that sink in for a second. A seismic event with no epicenter, just a start point and an end point. So obviously the big question is, if it's not an earthquake, what in the world is it? The researchers, well, they had to think way, way outside the box. And the theory they came up with is genuinely one of the strangest in all of modern physics. They landed on a suspect called strange quark matter. Okay, so this is some seriously wild hypothetical stuff. It's thought to be maybe the most stable substance in the entire universe. You might find it in the core of a neutron star, or, and here's the key part, as tiny, super dense little nuggets just wandering through space. And the properties of these things are just mind-blowing. Check this out. We are talking about something with the density of an atomic nucleus. A nugget that weighs 1 ton, so about the same as a car, would be smaller than one of your blood cells. And it's moving at hundreds of kilometers per second. To give you some perspective, that's fast enough to cross the entire United States in about 20 seconds. It is literally a cosmic bullet. I know, the theory is absolutely wild. But here's the real question. Did it actually match the data they found? Well, let's take a look at the evidence from that second event, because that one was even more convincing. Okay, so this second event, on November 24th, 1993, gave them an even clearer signal. This wasn't just some faint little whisper in the data. It was picked up by 9 separate seismic stations scattered all across the globe, and they all recorded the exact same inexplicable straight-line event. And here it is. This is the smoking gun. When they actually crunched the numbers, the arrival times at those 9 stations fit the model of a straight-line source, the strange quark nugget, almost perfectly. The error was just 0.15 seconds. Now, when they tried to force that same data to fit a normal earthquake model, the error was 17 times bigger. The model couldn't even properly converge. It just didn't work. And it wasn't just the timing. Even the shape of the wave itself looked all wrong. A typical earthquake signal, it starts strong and then it kind of fades out. This signal, though, it had this bizarrely sharp beginning, and then it just held a nearly constant strength for several seconds. It didn't look like anything that comes from inside our planet. So, okay, let's take a breath. What are we supposed to take away from all this? Why does a 30-year-old scientific paper about some weird seismic wiggles even matter? Well, the conclusion is pretty mind-bending. When you boil it all down, it comes to this. After they meticulously ruled out every other possibility, earthquakes, equipment failure, you name it, the scientists were left with only one explanation that fit all the facts. An invisible, microscopic 1-ton bullet of strange matter had just shot clean through the Earth. But here's where it gets even crazier. Finding 2 of these things in just a few years of data, that actually lines up with some theories that these strange quark nuggets could be a component of dark matter. You know, the mysterious, invisible stuff that makes up something like 27% of our entire universe? If that's true, then these signals aren't just a weird little fluke. They could be the first direct evidence of the stuff holding our entire galaxy together. That would be a huge step in solving one of the biggest puzzles in all of physics. And that kind of leaves you with this one final, really unsettling thought. The scientists found 2 of these things just by digging through a pretty limited amount of data from the early 90s. It really makes you wonder, how many more are passing through our world, through us, completely unseen and unnoticed right now? It really seems the world might just be a whole lot stranger than we ever imagined.